So today is the big day of harvesting the Blue Hopi corn. That's our flour corn, and I've decided to harvest that today because we've got a week of wet weather coming up, and although the temperatures are still going to be predicted above 11 degrees even at night, and we're only a few days off November, so no frost coming up just yet, it's going to be raining pretty much the whole time. So our corn stalks, they're drying out now, and there is the risk if they remain too damp and wet at this stage, they could begin to rot and get mould on. Some of our plants are at varying degrees of maturity as well. Those are planted direct initially have almost completely dried out. The plants and the ears of corn are a nice dry straw colour. Those that I had to sow direct later on, because the initial ones have been chewed off, still some of the plants are green in the stalks themselves, but the ears are starting to dry out. So one thing I must do as I go around, those who are still looking slightly in between, maybe they've still got a bit of green, I need to just give the individual kernels of corn a poke with my fingernail to make sure they're nice and solid, which is how they should be. Here's a good example of a plant that hasn't quite dried out yet, but the ear of corn here is looking like it's semi kind of drying out. So let's have a little look in here and see how it's looking. So I can still, there's a little bit of milky white colour there, and I can poke my nail into those. So that one is going to have to remain on there, and we'll see what happens. Whereas here's another one that's just naturally become exposed. This is just peeled back, and they are completely solid. I can't even push my finger and dent those in whatsoever. So that can come with us. This is one of the things I was concerned about actually. If you look just how wet the base of this corn is here. So I'm a bit worried if I leave these in the cold, damp weather much longer, as the temperatures start to get a bit cooler, we could start to lose a lot of this. So I think I'm happy to get what I can today. Those that just are too early, I'm going to have to leave, but that's how things go. So we haven't had full pollination here. Each of these basically silk hairs were those original silks. If you think of corn, when those silks come out, the pollen drops down. Each one corresponds to an individual kernel of corn here. And yeah, we haven't had great pollination at the end, but good the rest of the way down. So this is what I've managed to harvest today. This is actually only, unfortunately, about half of it because the rest of it just isn't ready yet. So fingers crossed that we'll keep the mould and the other pests at bay for another week or so before that ripens. Now, what I'm going to do with this is start peeling these back, and I can tie them in bundles and hang them for several weeks, if not 6 weeks or so, until they're fully dried. And it's during this stage while I'm doing this that I'm going to be keeping an eye out for the best ears of corn for seed for next year. And what I'm going to be looking for are those that are not only the biggest and plumpest, but also those have dried out quickest as well. And I want to be collecting at least a minimum of kind of 30 different ears for that, and then the seed of those will all get mixed up together, so we're not just collecting from only a couple of plants, because you can have problems with corn with inbreeding if you grow from just, you use only one as your seed for next year and keep growing from those. So yeah, that's the aim. So our Blue Hopi corn has been drying out for several weeks now, and those that we're going to be keeping for our seed we'll be keeping whole, still tied up together, and those which we're going to be using for food we need to now shell or shuck. And for the last few years I've been doing that just by hand, simply by literally you can just push each kernel off with your fingers, or you can twist these. I'll get a close-up shot now for you. And doing it that way is great for small quantities, but it does start to do your hands in after a while. So something I've been after for a few years now is a proper corn shucker or sheller, a cast iron one. And I've only been able to find these in America in the past, and they either won't post to the UK or the postage is just crazy expensive. So I managed to find a couple in the UK finally that were actually being sold as antiques, and they need a little bit of work. This one here is the corn shucker, and the idea is you put the corn in the top like this and you turn this handle and it basically removes all of those individual kernels off of there, and then it ejects the husk out the side, and you have this attached to kind of like a wooden pallet or box to collect all of your shelled corn. And the next part of that is the flour mill, and this one here, although it looks quite nice, well, it is very nice actually, it's from Clarksville, Tennessee, and it's been painted but it's completely seized and rusty. So my job is going to be making a new handle for this and seeing if I can get all of these nuts apart and basically getting it up and running again. The sheller is okay, that's all moving, other than the fact one of the cast iron brackets on the back is snapped, so that's going to need to be welded. So yeah, that's going to be a video coming up soon. Try and get these bad boys restored and show you the process of doing it with these tools. But something we can do in the meantime while waiting for me to fix up these tools is make parched corn, which is one of our favourite snacks, which is basically a way of using the flour corn unprocessed. And Laurie was making some of that earlier, so we'll go and take a look at that now.
Our favourite way to use our Blue Hopi corn is simply parching it. And you do this almost dry frying by just adding as much salt as you like to taste and cooking it for between 6 to 10 minutes when the corns start popping and going slightly browned.
It's quite cool because they begin to pop like popcorn, although they don't go big like popcorn.
I'm making us Three Sisters soup today, which is quite a simple soup with squash and beans and just some garlic and onion to flavour it. And then we add the parched corn to the top to make it our Three Sisters meal.
Well guys, I'd like to thank you so much as always for watching. It's always a pleasure to have you with us, following our journey, and be sure to like this video if you've enjoyed watching it, and do subscribe if you haven't already. It's always much appreciated, and let me know in the comment section below anything you've got to tell me about corn and your growing experiences as well. Anyway, from me, peace and plants.